All right, so today we're going deep on something pretty wild.
Pretty wild, yeah.
We're talking Palantir Technologies.
Ah, Palantir.
You know, the big data and AI company.
Yeah.
And we're asking, could they really become like the next big tech titan? Like up there with Apple, Microsoft.
In that realm.
It sounds crazy, right?
It does sound a little crazy, yeah.
But an article from the Motley Fool is predicting just that.
Yeah.
So.
Prediction: Palantir Technologies could surge by 1,345% in the next 10 years.
Whoa. 1,345%.
That's the title that caught your eye, right?
Yeah, a 1,345% surge. That's not even growth.
No.
That's like a whole nother level.
It's a different stratosphere.
Yeah, 1,345%. They would put their market cap somewhere around $2.5 trillion.
Yeah.
We're talking Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia territory.
Yeah, you know what's interesting?
What's that?
Only 3 companies have ever hit that level.
Wow.
But think about this. Look at what happened with Meta.
Yeah.
10 years ago, they were valued at $217 billion, and now they're well over $1.5 trillion.
That's true.
That's
so
it.
maybe this Palantir prediction,
Yeah.
it isn't as outlandish as it sounds.
It's audacious for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But to even think about if this is possible,
Yeah.
we need to look beyond the hype
Right.
and understand what Palantir actually does.
Yeah. What do they actually do?
They're not building, consumer gadgets or social networks.
Wow.
They're creating kind of the brains behind the scenes, the software that helps organizations make sense of incredibly complex data.
Right. It's all about big data analytics and AI.
That's right.
But it's not just like, some vague AI thing. They've got these 2 flagship platforms, Gotham and Foundry. Gotham is the one that's been, making headlines.
Yeah.
Especially with like government agencies using it for intelligence and defense work.
Right.
It's like the ultimate data detective,
Oh, interesting.
finding connections and patterns that humans would miss.
Yeah. Gotham is incredibly powerful, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
It's designed to handle these really demanding data challenges,
Right.
Especially in areas where security and accuracy are really important.
For sure.
Counterterrorism, fraud detection,
Wow.
even predicting potential infrastructure failures.
Right.
But Palantir isn't content with just the government sector.
Right.
They've also got Foundry, which is geared more toward commercial applications.
So Foundry is like Gotham's business-savvy cousin.
You got it.
That's how they're trying to snag those project sector clients.
Exactly. And they're seeing some serious traction there, too.
Really?
Yeah, you think about the kind of data businesses are dealing with these days, customer information, supply chains, financial transactions, manufacturing processes.
A lot.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And that's where Foundry comes in.
Yeah.
It helps companies analyze all that data, optimize their operations,
Right.
and even create new business models.
Okay, so they've got these powerful platforms. They're attracting these big-name clients, both in government and in the private sector.
Yeah.
That part I get.
Okay.
But how does that translate into potentially becoming like a multi-trillion-dollar company?
Right.
I mean, that kind of growth is unheard of.
It is rare.
Yeah.
But a few things are working in Palantir's favor.
Like what?
Firstly, they're operating in a market that's exploding. The demand for AI and data analytics solutions.
Yeah.
That's only going to increase
Right.
in the coming years.
Yeah.
Every industry is becoming more data-driven.
Sure.
So the potential customer base is massive.
It's huge.
It is.
The article highlighted their recent performance.
Yeah.
36% revenue growth year over year.
Yeah. Impressive.
And a 43% jump in their customer base.
Those are serious numbers.
Yeah, those are really good numbers.
They are. And if those trends continue, their revenue could easily double in just a couple of years.
Wow, in just a couple of years.
Yeah.
But hold on, they're not exactly a startup anymore.
That's true.
Can a company that's already, this established really maintain that kind of breakneck growth? I mean, wouldn't things eventually plateau?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. And
Yeah.
that's where things get interesting because
Okay.
even with all this potential, Palantir faces some serious challenges.
Like what?
Well, they're operating in an incredibly competitive space.
Right. You've got like Microsoft and Amazon pouring billions into AI and data analytics.
Yeah,
And then there's Google.
of course.
They're practically synonymous with data.
Right.
So how can Palantir even compete with those giants?
That's where understanding what sets them apart is crucial.
Okay.
You see, they're not just another cloud provider offering generic AI tools.
Right.
Their platforms are designed for very specific high-stakes use cases, the kind where getting the right answer can be mission critical.
So they're more specialized.
Yes.
More focused on those really tough problems that require a deeper level of analysis.
Exactly.
But even then, isn't it just a matter of time before the big guys catch up?
Yeah.
They've got the resources to do whatever they want.
Absolutely. And that's why Palantir's future hinges on whether they can stay ahead of the curve, continuously innovate and maintain that edge.
Yeah.
In terms of the complexity and sophistication of their solutions.
So it's like a high-stakes race.
It is.
They've got a head start, but the competition is fierce.
Yeah.
And they can't afford to let up.
Not for a second.
It makes you wonder, what are they doing to make sure they stay ahead?
Well, one of their strategies has been to double down on what they call AI for the real world.
AI for the real world.
Yeah, it's not just about algorithms and models.
Right.
It's about understanding, the messy, complex realities of the domains that they're operating in.
So instead of just throwing AI at a problem and hoping for the best,
yeah,
they're really digging into the specifics,
Yeah.
making sure the AI is tailored to the nuances of each situation.
Precisely. They've built up this incredible expertise
Wow.
in areas like defense, intelligence, finance, healthcare. And, they're not just software engineers.
Right.
They have teams of former military analysts, intelligence officers, financial experts.
Wow.
Working alongside the developers.
It's like they're embedding real-world knowledge
Yeah.
directly into their AI.
That's a great way to put it.
So that gives them that edge
Yeah.
to tackle those really complex, high-stakes problems
Right.
that other AI solutions might not be able to handle.
Exactly. They're not just selling software.
Right.
They're selling expertise, a deep understanding of the problems
I see.
that their clients are facing. And that's a really powerful differentiator.
Okay, I'm starting to get why some investors are so bullish on them.
Yeah.
But let's flip the script for a second.
Okay.
We've talked about all the positives.
Yeah.
But what about the potential downsides?
Right.
The article mentioned Palantir isn't profitable yet.
Yeah, that's true.
They're burning through cash,
Yeah.
investing heavily in R&D and expansion.
Yeah.
Is that a red flag?
It's definitely something to consider.
Mm.
High growth often comes at a high cost,
A lot.
especially in a field like AI where the technology is constantly evolving.
Yeah, it's changing so fast.
It is. So the question is, can they translate that investment into sustainable profits down the road?
Because at some point, investors are going to want to see a return
Yeah.
on their money.
Right. It can't be all about growth forever.
Exactly.
And that's where their move into the private sector becomes so important.
Okay.
Government contracts, they can be lucrative, but they can also be unpredictable.
Right.
By diversifying their client base. They're aiming to create a more stable revenue stream,
Right.
which is, essential for long-term profitability.
So it's a bit of a gamble.
Yeah.
They're betting big on the private sector,
Uh-huh.
adopting their AI solutions at a rapid pace.
Right.
If they're right, the payoff could be huge.
It could be.
But if they're wrong, that's a lot of money down the drain.
That's the risk they're taking.
Yeah.
But it's a calculated risk.
Right.
The demand for AI solutions is real.
Yeah. It's only growing.
It is.
Oh.
And they're positioning themselves to be a major player.
Okay, but let's say they do succeed.
Okay.
They capture a significant share of the private sector market.
Uh-huh.
They become this dominant force in AI.
Right.
Doesn't that raise some concerns?
What concerns?
I mean, we've all seen those sci-fi movies
Yeah.
where AI takes over,
Right.
starts making decisions for us.
I see what you're saying.
Is that something we should be worried about with a company like Palantir?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
And it touches on one of the biggest challenges facing the entire AI industry.
Okay.
This issue of control and accountability.
Right.
As AI becomes more powerful,
Uh-huh.
more integrated into our lives,
Yeah.
it's crucial to ensure
Right.
that it's used responsibly, ethically,
Yeah.
and always with human oversight.
So it's not just about building the best AI.
No.
It's about making sure it's used for good,
Right.
not for harm.
Exactly. And that's a responsibility
Yeah.
that falls not just on companies like Palantir,
Right.
but on society as a whole.
Everyone.
We need to have these open conversations
Uh-huh.
about the potential risks and benefits of AI,
Right.
and we need to develop clear guidelines and regulations
Yay.
to ensure its ethical development and deployment.
That makes sense.
Okay?
It's like we're entering this new frontier,
Yeah.
And we need to establish the rules of the road.
Yeah.
Before things get out of hand.
Before we go too far.
But how does Palantir fit into all this? What are they doing to address these concerns?
Well, they've been quite vocal about their commitment to responsible AI.
Okay.
They emphasize, the importance of human-in-the-loop systems.
Human-in-the-loop.
Where AI is used to augment human decision-making.
Right.
Not replace it. They also talk about the need for transparency and explainability in AI systems so that users can understand how decisions are being made.
So they're not just saying, like, trust us, our AI is good.
Right.
They're trying to be more open
about
how their systems work.
Exactly.
Which I guess is a step in the right direction.
It is a good sign.
But let's be honest, they're a for-profit company.
That's true.
And their primary goal is to make money.
Yeah.
How do we know they'll always prioritize ethics over profits, especially in such a competitive market where there's pressure to cut corners?
That's the dilemma, right? And there's no easy answer.
Yeah.
It ultimately comes down to a combination of factors.
Like what?
Corporate responsibility, government regulation, and public awareness.
So it's like a three-legged stool.
That's a good analogy.
You need all three legs to be strong for it to stand up.
Right. If any one of them weakens, the whole thing could collapse.
Exactly.
And that's why these conversations are so important.
I agree.
We need to be aware of both the immense potential and the potential pitfalls of AI.
Right.
It's not a technology to be feared or embraced blindly, but rather one to be understood, harnessed responsibly, and guided towards creating a better future.
Okay. So we've covered Palantir's impressive growth, their unique AI solutions, and even touched upon some of the ethical considerations surrounding AI.
That's right.
But what about the financial side of things?
Right, the money.
What makes investors so bullish on Palantir's stock, even after that recent dip?
That's a great question and a perfect segue to the next part of our deep dive, where we're going to delve into the world of stock market predictions, risk assessments, and what it really means to invest in a company like Palantir.
For the long haul.
For the long haul.
Okay, so we've talked about Palantir's tech, their growth, the competitive landscape, even the ethical consideration.
We've covered a lot of ground.
But let's be honest. The big question for a lot of people is this a company worth investing in?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it all comes back to that Motley Fool prediction, a potential 1,345% surge in Palantir's stock price over the next 10 years.
Right. I know.
Now, I know that number sounds crazy.
Yeah, it does.
Like something out of a sci-fi novel.
It does sound a bit out there.
Right.
Even if everything goes perfectly for them, is that kind of growth even realistic?
Well, we have to remember, stock market predictions aren't guarantees.
Right.
They're based on a lot of assumptions about, future performance market conditions.
Right.
A whole bunch of other factors that are impossible to predict with certainty.
So taking that prediction with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
What would need to happen for Palantir to even come close to justifying that kind of valuation?
A few things.
Like that?
First, they would need to continue their aggressive expansion into the private sector.
Right. We talked about that.
It's a key part of their growth strategy.
Yeah.
And it's where the biggest potential market lies.
For sure.
But it's also where they face the most competition.
Right. They're going up against some of the biggest tech companies in the world.
They are.
Companies with, vastly more resources and experience in selling to businesses.
Yeah. So how do they plan to win in that arena?
It's a good question.
It is. Well, that's where their focus on these specialized high-stakes AI solutions comes into play.
Okay.
They're not trying to be everything to everyone.
Right.
They're targeting specific industries and use cases where their deep expertise and their ability to handle these complex data sets gives them a competitive advantage.
So it's about quality over quantity.
I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
They're not chasing every single AI opportunity out there. They're focusing on the areas where they can truly excel.
Right.
And they're also betting on the fact that as AI becomes more sophisticated, the demand for these specialized solutions will only increase.
Makes sense.
Right. Companies will be willing to pay a premium for AI that can solve their most critical problems, even if it comes from a smaller, more specialized provider like Palantir.
Okay, that makes sense. But even if they succeed in capturing a significant chunk of the private sector market, is that enough to justify a 1,345% surge in their stock price?
Right.
I mean, that would make them bigger than most of the tech giants.
Yeah. That's where things get tricky.
Okay.
Valuations are complex.
Yeah.
And they can be influenced by a lot of factors.
Right.
Beyond just a company's revenue and profits.
Like what?
Investor sentiment, market trends, even the overall economic climate can play a role.
So even if Palantir executes flawlessly on their business plan,
right,
there's no guarantee that their stock price will reflect that success.
That's the thing. The stock market can be irrational.
Yeah.
And sometimes the price of a stock has more to do with how people feel about the company than with the actual fundamentals of the business.
So what's the bottom line?
Yeah.
For our listeners who might be considering investing in Palantir?
Yeah, good question.
Should they buy into the hype?
Yeah. Or is it too risky?
That's the question.
Here's the thing. Palantir is a fascinating company, operating in a rapidly growing and transformative industry.
Yeah, for sure.
They have a compelling growth story, and they're tackling some of the most complex challenges facing businesses and governments today.
Right.
But they're also a relatively young company with a lot to prove.
So it's a high-risk, high-reward kind of investment.
Exactly. It's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not a get-rich-quick scheme. If you're considering investing in Palantir, you need to do your research, understand the risks involved, and be prepared for a potentially bumpy ride.
And probably not put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Absolutely. Diversification is key no matter what you're investing in.
For sure.
Never invest more than you can afford to lose.
Right.
And make sure you have a well-diversified portfolio that aligns with your overall financial goals and risk tolerance.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Palantir Technologies, I think the big takeaway is this. They're a company to watch.
Definitely.
But whether they become the next Apple or Microsoft, only time will tell.
It's going to be an interesting journey, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I, for one, am eager to see how it all unfolds.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Palantir and artificial intelligence.
Absolutely.
It's a complex and rapidly evolving landscape.
It is.
And we hope this conversation has given you some food for thought.
Some things to think about,
And hopefully it's sparked a bit of curiosity. Maybe even inspired you to do some further exploring on your own.
There's a lot to learn out there.
Remember, the future of AI is still being written.
Yes.
And it's up to all of us to engage in these conversations and shape the direction of this powerful technology. Until next time. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep asking those big questions.
That's what it's all about.